Okay, so I've had a few people ask me about Munster's lineouts in the first half of the game against Racing. That we had a lot of trouble maintaining our own possession and basically having a solid platform to launch off. So I thought what I might do in this video is have a look at most of our lineouts in the first half and try to explain how difficult it was to play against a team like Racing with the number of counter jumpers that they have, and how Munster looked to try to shake them off and try to get that solid line-out platform as we went through the game. So let's have a look at those right now. Okay, let's begin. So this is one of Munster's first lineouts in the game. The first thing you'll note about this is Racing, again, aligning all of their counter jumpers inside of their two props. So you've got I think this is Eddie Benarous, this is Sedata Gomez-Sa, one of the two anyway. It is, the most difficult thing about this from a Munster perspective is that any one of these guys could be lifters or jumpers. So you look at Palu here, he played in the second row last week, good athletic counter jumper. You have Donnacha Ryan here, who's going to be their kind of defensive line-out leader. Then you look at Dominic Bird, 6'9", Wenceslas Laurie, and Anthony Klassen, who is, again, all of these guys are athletic jumpers. These guys at the front have the big wingspan, the good launch, the height. These guys back here might not be have the best amount of height or wingspan, but they're very, very explosive guys into the air, and they've got two very good lifters either side. So if you look here at the line out, we'll say from here to here, they're covering 2, 4, and 6 really, really well. So from Munster's perspective here, the call has already been given to Niall Scannell here, so he's just going to be looking for the trigger, I suppose, to get going. Now, this is a kind of a walk-up lineup, a line-out. At this point, Munster would all know the call, and you kind of leave it a little bit late here when you're walking up, just to see if you can get any movement or any kind of tells out of these guys, because you can kind of, change it up on the fly if that is in your, if you're looking to do something along those lines. So here, once we set at this point now, you can see that, look, that Donnacha Ryan is kind of looking at the thrower. Bird is looking at, he's guarding the middle here, because again, look, you'd be happy enough to give teams the front, generally, because it's a hard place to play off, it's a hard place to maul from. We've got the likes of Camille Shah here. He's got great pace in him. He'll just zip out through the line here to kind of to I suppose, to shut down the line speed attempts that may be coming through here. So from that perspective here, look, Racing look very well stocked in this line here. Already you can see at the back there that Klassen, I think it's either, is it Laurie or Klassen, seems to be very much aware of this line back here. So you can see Byrne is looking with O'Mahony. These are our two kind of our line-out leaders here, really, because I think it's Byrne who's calling the line-out. But again, I'd say Peter O'Mahony would be our most athletic counter jumper. So in that regards, you've got a few different areas here to look at. So, from here, if I'm Racing, I would say that this is likely looking like it's going to go to the back, but we'll see how it goes. Say now this is Donnacha Ryan. He's just after putting the throw under pressure there, trying to get it going. They're slowing it down, they're delaying it. That kind of puts the hooker under pressure as well here, and just kind of affects his throw. So at this point, with Stander back here, because again, look, Byrne is a jumper, Klein is a jumper, O'Mahony is, Stander is, and Jack O'Donoghue is too. So it's all there for us. We've got a few options ourselves. Now this is another key part here. We have a swap. Now the trigger here is Byrne. It looks like, anyway, Byrne looking away from Scannell, because if we go back and we just pause it, right, he's keeping an eye on him here pretty much all the way. There's the first call, and now when he looks away, we're ready to go. See, he's keeping an eye on him all the way, and now flinching. We're going back. This is kind of like a flinch line out, essentially. So what this is we're not going to use too much in the way of deception. We're going to keep it pretty simple for the most part. These guys are still set at the front. There's my bloody email going off again. These are these guys here are kind of sticking to the front in their kind of frozen positions here. So these guys are locked. So now it's just a race into the air with the tail. So they'll be looking to see, can they get up into the air on this against us? Now this is actually quite a good take from Peter O'Mahony, but if you look at Laurie, he's got great counter jump on here too. So like, as in, like, from their perspective, like if we'll just go back there a couple of seconds already, we'll just watch this go through again at full speed. Right, here we go. There's a shrug to start our timer, and now we're going on when Byrne flinches. Now again, we're watching these guys. O'Mahony is eyeing up Scannell, so we're keeping an eye full on the throw there. And even here, like, they've done a good job getting into the air then as well. Like, they have triggered themselves quite well, and we're under pressure there to get this one. So if we play it out there, again, they get a disrupting hand in on that, and that would be counted early on anyway for them. A pretty good line-out win for Racing in that regard, you know. And like, again, this is kind of why they're so good, because they have those 5 legitimate counter jumpers, and in Donnacha Ryan, a guy who knows a lot of he doesn't have to know our calls, just our tendencies. Anyway, there's the flinch again. We're going to look to try and win the race into the air here again. And this is something that we walked up and slowed down the tempo of it so we can get these guys stitched out like this. So none of these guys have kind of pre-bound kind of grips in each other here. So from that perspective, we're kind of looking to try and beat them from okay, we will take you on we'll step back around and we'll get a lift into the air before you can. So we're kind of looking to try to use our mobility in the line-out as the main way to win the line-out. But with them having so much, explosive counter jumpers there as well, you can just kind of see as we play this one through. At this stage, right, this has gone, I think we'd be pretty happy with this. This has gone all the way to the back. O'Mahony is getting right into the air here, up against Dominic Bird. But because Dominic Bird is such a tall man, he's like 6'9" with a huge wingspan. You can see head to head, we've beaten him into the air. The ball is going all the way back, so the throw itself looks okay. It's slightly above the top of O'Mahony's jump. But you can see there right at the end that Bird was right there as well. So, like, as in, that'll just show the advantage of height, obviously, in the line-out, which you knew already. But he is able to lose the initial jump into the air. But because he's not an absolutely colossally, from a weight perspective, second row, he's a very, very dangerous line-out guy. And they often stacked him at the back in those ones, or close to the back, guarding the middle, so he could always go back and attack that space because he had that big huge wingspan. So that's 2 lineouts. The first one was disrupted, but we didn't lose it. This one has been lost, and that's just, it comes down to pressure right at the tail from Racing, and they competed an awful lot on our ball. So this now is another example of our work in this game of the line-out. Now at this point we have the previous 2 losses kind of under our belt, and that'll kind of make us a little bit wary of especially this position, because this was right after we had just turned over the ball. They had a fantastic kick back down into our 22. If you look here again, we've shortened the line-out. They've got 1 jumper, 2 jumper, 3 jumpers here all through the line. So, like, from their perspective, they're looking to try and just mark Peter O'Mahony, and we have to try and get the ball away, and we have to defeat their countering. So when we play this through, we've triggered him here. So this guy is looking like he's going to jump, and now we have I think what we were actually going to try something very expansive here. I think we were actually going to look to try and attack up the sideline here. But the pass wasn't good enough. You can see there it's kind of aimed at the shoulder. You could see. Peter O'Mahony still should have taken it, in my opinion. But I think what we were planning on doing there was him taking that ball, kind of having a sort of an interaction where he takes it and then swivels it to O'Mahony, or O'Donoghue rather, and then pops it to Scannell. Because you can see they're looking very, very active here, and looking to try and break up the sideline, because again, Racing wouldn't really be expecting that. And a lot of our stuff that we started to do in the second half was based on trying to subvert their expectations with regards to what they were doing on line-out defense, because they would have been very, very confident on their defensive line-out, and it was very, very complex for us to try and shake them off, and they knew that. And this is the challenge, that when it comes down to playing against this Racing side, is the artifice that you have to put onto your line-out work, because Donnacha Ryan, again, he just knows a lot of these guys' tendencies. You don't have to know the call, you just have to know what certain guys look like when they're jumping, and this is something that you'll be reviewing anyway. And some guys, they'll always have those little triggers, and you have those tendencies of, well, we tend to go to this guy in this area of the field. And this is just an example of, not bad line-out work per se. The idea was good, the execution looked like it was pretty good as well, but it just, the aim was off on this little pass, and that was just that area of inaccuracy. And you can just see it more here, where if we play this through, you can see here that we're actually just clearing the lane for him. So out, there's one feint, so that sets them running back. This is a feint from Byrne to get these guys turning around. Then you have Lockman jumping there as well. And again, at this point, Palu is saying, okay, look, they're going to jump here and commit to it. He's committed to the jump there, but it's gone. There's no jump coming. And you can see that his Lucid there is watching him. And there, you see, pass goes right to his shoulder. And it's, again, it's a frustrating one. You can see he's quite frustrated at the bottom here afterwards, because again, I think he knows he should have taken it, but it's just one of those things. Now we're coming back here again to a similar position where the last line-out was. And at this point, we're going to be walking up again. Now, the last time we threw here early in the half, we went to the tail area. And when you have a situation like this where there's a similar looking line-out scheme here, there's slight differences in this one. But when we play it on, you've got our pod here at the back, and you can see Klassen already is IDing this here, that he's looking to try to go and counter here. Now, what we're doing is we've got a launch pod at the front, a launch pod at the back, and a guy holding in the space. Now, at this point here, you can see Donnacha Ryan is watching Jack O'Donoghue here, because again, this area is a pretty dangerous space to give up. And when you see sides looking to ignore it, as in to create a distance between front and tail, that can often be a space where guys can look to try and run into. So you try to, as in this, there's so much space here that you can often try to just, I kind of freak out the opposition in a way by, this guy maybe steps back, you're running into the space here, John Ryan turns around, because again, they'll be looking here about how John Ryan, his eyes are turned back this way. So again, in all line-out schemes, we're trying to just distance them from where they're looking to throw from they're looking to counter jump to where we're looking to throw to, because ultimately we want clean line-out ball. Now, you can't always get them to jump at 4 and you'll throw to 6. That won't always happen. Sometimes it'll come down to marginal space. So if this is 6 and this is 5 and that's 4, you might be throwing to 5, they're jumping at 4 or 6, and you win a very tight race into the air. Because if they're gonna counter jump, and you can win, more of those counters, you can win more of those contests rather, then you'll be in a very good position to attack off that line, because then 3 of their guys are going to be obviously after having launched a guy into the air, so they won't be in the best position to defend. So it's risk and reward, but they have very, very good players there. So when we play it on here, we're waiting for our trigger. Peter Romani starts this one by moving out of the way. The count starts 1, 2, and then we're looking to get up into the air here. Now again, I would say that I don't think we sold this well enough here. Now, our animation wasn't great. I know that's an annoying word, but we weren't really selling this as a launch. So when we go up into the air here, it's a good throw, I think. It's slightly below Tyg Byrne, slightly below where he probably would have wanted it. I think he probably would have wanted it here. But Klassen, he spotted it early that this was likely we were going to go launch here to the tail, and he gets a strong contest on there and wins that pretty easily. So it's like, well, not pretty easily, but he won it fairly effectively. So at this point, 32 minutes in, we're kind of at a point where they've had good success counter jumping us when we've thrown to, the more expansive areas to 4 and to 6 in particular. So we had to try to, I suppose, narrow down the range that we were going to be playing in, because when you're in a situation like this, the more lineouts you lose, it becomes harder and harder to win your next one, because you start to they always say, okay, look, forget about the past ones, we'll get now to the next ones. It's very easy to say when you're not in the moment, but the nerves can start kicking in, you start to doubt your form, you start, just from a thrower's perspective, you start to doubt your form, your hands can start shaking, you can start getting basically the yips, and you're not able to throw with the same sort of accuracy and confidence that you have. It's one of the biggest things, is to kind of almost have that instant amnesia when it comes to, okay, we fucked up the last one, this one now has to go. So at this point, as I was speaking about before the game, we had been seemingly trying to overload their reading of the line out at 4, but we weren't really getting the results. We had been going pretty expensive to our throws, and they'd been getting their very fast counter jumpers and their big wingspan counter jumpers into the air pretty effectively. So from that perspective, they would have been delighted as to how they actually went here. So from here now, I think we're kind of looking at, well, we've got to try and change this up a small bit. So again, you can see Tadhg here at the back, keeping eye contact with our hooker. These guys are watching it. There's a bit of space here as well. So if we decide to run to the front, Palu here can run and get right up into the air as well to look to contest. So we have to try and again change it up, because they're looking for those trios. They're looking for that rule of 3 where a launch can happen. So we're trying to change up that here. So we're stepping out, and there's no even room to jump. We're going very, very quick. That's on a 1 count. So that is in the accuracy of this one has to be spot on. And this one actually goes quite well because it lands straight with burn, and we can get right into the maul and get going. Now, I'm going to keep this running here, because if you remember last week, I had an article showing about how we were looking to try to go in, out, and weave around the place to try if we could kind of drag in some defenders. Now here, a bit of space between Klassen and I believe this is, that's Russell. Now, look if this, see if this looks familiar. Comes out to Scannell. We have Hanrahan running here at the back. I think because we didn't have enough time to code it, or to actually trigger Conway, that he wasn't active and live here. But this is just another example as to how we broke off the maul. And for me, it's one of those ones where I'd like to see JJ given a shot at passing this ball, because Scannell rather, to have a pass back to JJ, because you can see Conway is looking to float around to overload again. And if you play it just through slightly here, you'll see Haley and Earls would have been over there as well, with Zebo and Thomas and Vakatawa with his shoulders turned in. That's just one of those moments where a similar moment to last week that I thought would have worked against Racing, and I think we just needed to see. Now, I think we ended up getting very close to scoring a try here anyway, so it's not the end of the world, but that's one of those moments where I'd like to see JJ getting a kind of a pullback pass there and having a cut coming around the corner, because Vakatawa definitely looked like he had been sucked in by Farrell in that instance. So that's one of the ones I think we look back on as being a bit of a, one that we'd want to have back. Now here, we're back into a very similar position, right on the 22. You can see Byrne here again, keeping a good eye on Niall Scannell. Racing have a very tall line there, like they're counter jumpers here. Each one of them capable of lifting the other. So it's like they can really, like, if we don't beat them into the air, like it was in with regards to how quickly our flinch action goes, if we're not beating them into the air, they've got guys there with huge wingspans and good athletic jumps on them as well that can really, really hurt you. So here, now we've gone, the trigger comes in, and you can see Palu there. That's the action I was talking about before. Running right to the front, he's getting into the air at the exact same time as Jean Klein. I don't think we sold that very well, but at this point, they're 14-6 up, so they can afford to counter jump and not really, they're not really running a huge risk. Like here, like that ball there, I think needed to be slightly higher because we've got a jumper coming forward, so we need that to be aggressive going up. It's whether it's throw or the actual scheme itself, it just wasn't working, and we did look to try to reduce some of these as the game went on. So it really is a kind of a situation that, as I covered in the other one there today, playing a side like Racing, because they're so dangerous and they're so effective at the counter jump, basically means it's very, very hard to get a reliable source of line out ball against them. That's something that we're definitely going to have to work with against Racing once we go there in January, but is not something that I would expect to be prevalent against Saracens in a week's time, because they won't have the same amount of counter jumpers. They're stacked differently, so it'll be a different type of challenge in itself. But that's just wanted to go over some of the lineouts from the first half, just to show how difficult it is to play against these guys when they've got launching options everywhere. So thank you very much for tuning into this. I'll have more videos like this coming up soon. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.